Okay, welcome to my presentation of the trial of Agnes Bernauer. First, before the first slide, I found a interesting trading card from Germany with Agnes's face on here and sort of giving an illustration of the witch trial Germany of the past. And this is sort of commemorating her passing, but also the rich history that was the witch trials, and almost like this is a welcome card, a postcard. And here, before we get into uh, Agnes Bernauer's case, thought I'd give some context into the witch trials. Like societal tensions of the fear of the unknown at which it is so easy to marginalize at the root of the witch trials that found its beginnings in Eastern Europe, like France and Germany, like where you have here, sort of the start of the witch trials. Women, especially marginalized or independent, become scapegoats during times of crisis. Witch hunts reflected deep-rooted gender biases, fear of change, or religious favor, as well as being in the root of how we see women as disposable, especially ordinary or otherwise older women. Religious beliefs framed witches as agents of the devil, superstition fueled fear of witchcraft. The church shaped witchcraft into laws, anti-witch efforts, as it can just be as logical to call someone the devil as it can be to steal something, and those two inform each other. Now we get into Agnes Bernauer. Now that we know how Agnes was a non-noble woman from Augsburg, but she was romantically involved with the Duke Albert III of Bavaria in the early 15th century. As a commoner, she lacked the noble lineage typical for the Duke's partner, which made their relationship scandalous. Within the relationship and its consequences, the relationship with the Duke sparked resentment and political rifts. Her close connection with the nobleman fueled envy and suspicion, especially as Albert remained devoted to her. But as we get to 1435, she was accused of witchcraft, and a charge often used to eliminate women who challenged social norms and wielded influence. She was ultimately executed via drowning, a decision likely influenced by political motives. Now, why was she marginalized? Agnes was involved with the Duke, and her relationship posed a threat to political order as it jeopardized plans for the dynasty. Basically, it was Albert's dad who really took control of the way that Albert's marriage was going to go. Agnes was drowned in the Danube River in 1435, a method often used for execution. Drowning was sort of a reverse baptism, perceived as a way to divine the forces of real guilt or innocence. By executing her as one might a witch, authorities sent a message, especially for other countries that deal with the witch trials and as the judicial system becomes flexible. Gender and agency in the Middle Ages here. Women and vulnerable accusations. Witchcraft being something that was a tried and true fear in this time could be an explanation as to why the Duke would fall in love with her. Her marriage was seen as a disruption to the noble lineage and stability, making her a target as a political and social backlash. Agnes was accused of witchcraft and treason. both common charges against women who challenged the social norms. Similar to the witch trials, accusations relied more on perceived threat than proof that did not matter, since this was dealing with um, such a strong hierarchy in Bavaria at the time. Her trial aligned with the broader European practices, where the accusations against women were bypassed standard evidence requirements, reinforcing the patriarchal control. Without evidence, the patriarchy stands. Now I want to get into Agnes Bernauer's relationship to her home country. Um, the Duke, the Duke, Duke of Bavaria, the largest and most powerful state in southeastern Germany, was an active witch hunting state. Large scale persecution began in 1589 during the Great Wave of South German witch hunting around 1590. The pro persecution party was initially led by Bavarian Jesuits, while the anti persecution party was dominated by Bavarian's traditional elites. The Pappenheimer case was promoted by Wagner that led to the trial of families of agents convicted of torture and burned. However, the resistance for the persecution prevented a major witch hunt, where the Wagner agent ascendancy to the court chancellorship in 1606, and another crisis from 1607 to 1608 changed the situation, leading to a mandate against the superstition and magic in witchcraft in 1611. They flew too close to the sun with this case. And here we have some of the contraptions that were used within the case of Agnes Bernauer, with the paintings and illustrations often depicting the era's judicial process, where the crime and punishment were used to dramatize just how brutal they could be. Common trial contraptions including the rack for stretching, thumb screws, and scavenger's daughter, a comprehensive device they used to inflict pain and extract confessions, essentially what we now know as torture. Agnes, like the others accused, might have faced trial by water, where suspects were thrown into the water to prove innocence or guilt. And these tests would be viable for witchcraft. Agnes would have likely been restrained in shackles and chains, and without formal proceedings, Agnes was drowned, never having the ability to testify. We have some examples for some witch trials that followed after this senseless killing. Bernauer's tragic fate as a victim of societal and political manipulation marked an early example of witchcraft accusations used as tools of control, setting the stage for European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries. Now that they got her, there are no limits on who could be victimized, essentially. The combo of witchcraft accusation mixed with seducing the Duke shows that this is the ultimate sin. How else could a commoner win over someone with a larger status was sort of what was hovering over this case. Assuming that this was from anyone, assuming that anyone can be tried by friends or family, ethical lines be damned. From the way that Duke Albert's father rationalizes it, and can be holding her in contempt in secret, that this is about gender, but actually about class. Agnes's trial was the first in Bavaria where a woman's social threat to nobility was punished by witchcraft also. Here we have some other challengers to social norms resulting in witchcraft trials in other countries like Joan of Arc, Walpurga Hosmannin, and Margaret Thorpe. often in Europe in around the same era. Um, Other cases of suspicion and um, public outrage. Here we have some relevance that I found from this case. Um, like the most crucial point of Bernauer's death proving to be the misuse of power and control that we sometimes see today, vilifying women in the media. Reading up on this, her story reflects on the issues of gender bias, prejudice against marginalized women, and the dangers of the unjust legal system that really hasn't changed, but just altered to include other marginalized people, like people of other races. Um, Agnes's low status in relationship to Duke Albrecht made her a target for those by her influence, mirroring modern cases where women face discrimination in leadership and non-traditional roles. Just as fear of witchcraft used to suppress women, those considered outsiders fear is still leveraged today by marginalized groups. Here we have some tributes to Agnes following her killing. As in 1447, the endowment expanded, and in 1436, the Agnes Bernauer Chapel was erected in St. Petersburg, Straubing. It is unknown whether Agnes was buried in the Carmelite cloister or if Albert arranged for her mortal remains to be transferred to the chapel dedicated to her. A tombstone of her red marble of an almost life-size effigy of Agnes Bernauer was fitted to the floor of the chapel. A memorial endowments for Agnes Bernauer for the next 3 centuries are scarce. In 1508, Johannes Haberlander was the chaplain responsible for Bernauer Chapel, receiving 17 pounds in Regensburg penance for the maintenance of the daily reading of the memorial mass. The grave of Agnes Bernauer was moved to the wall of the chapel in 1785 to protect it from further damage. And in the 19th century, then the Agnes Bernauer Chapel became a tourist destination, with her story being one of the most sought after. And here's my bibliography. Thank you. Ooh.